Y'all know that things have changed dramatically since you were kids, since I was kids, and then when our kids grow up, things will have changed dramatically from them, from the time they were kids to the time they get older. When I was younger, first started working, I think my first job at maybe the under table cash pay from like a friend's mom who let me do work at her office for her, like filing papers and mailing stuff out. She paid me cash because I wasn't really old enough to be an employee of the company, right? That was like my first job. And she paid me pennies. It was like $5 an hour. It was absolutely nothing. But at the time, it was better than nothing, right? When you're young, because you want money to go to the mall. Then my very first job where I filled out the W-2s and did all the stuff and got the paper paycheck, like they used to give you back in the day. I think I made probably $6 and change at 15 or 16 years old, working at Linens and Things, working at Blockbuster, working at, where else did I work when I was younger? Best Buy. Y'all, I had a lot of jobs when I was younger. Let me just put that out there. A lot of places, because you never know what you really want to do with your life when you're, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. I had a lot of different jobs, and it was crazy. When I first started getting paid was cash. Then I would get a paycheck, right? Then I hit my 20s, and it was no longer you get a paycheck handed to you on a Friday. It was, we're going to direct deposit it into your account. And you're like, oh man, this is great. I don't have to wait for the bank to open. I don't have to drive to the bank to give them a paper check. I don't have to wait for it to clear. Everything is like that. Like, I loved it. I had my money right when I needed it. And that kind of change to me has been great. Then you get older and it's like, okay, well, now you need to worry about what you're going to do with your money. What are you going to do with your money? Are you going to just spend it willy-nilly and not save anything? What happens when you retire? Or are you going to invest? Are you going to get into the stock market? Are you going to buy a house and like rent it out so you have assets? Are you going to just put all your money in a savings account? Are you going to buy gold bars? Are you going to buy silver? Are you going to put it in what is it called, an IRA? Are you going to put in a 401k, which is still stocks, whatever? What are you going to do with your money, right? Now I'm trying to figure out what the heck a Bitcoin is. I'm trying to understand crypto, all these different things that have been kind of thrust upon us over the last however many years, right? When you have the president of the United States making his own Bitcoin, isn't that what Trump is doing? He has his own Bitcoin or something out there. It's something you really need to start paying attention to, right? So I have a daughter who is 16, and we were talking earlier about what she's going to do when she gets older. And I'm like, you're going to have to do something, either trades, like with your hands, like electrical engineering or building of houses, or something that robots can't come in and do, or you're going to have to do something online on the computer, because everything is electronic these days. I really feel like college is the thing of the past. So my daughter is 16. She will be graduating high school in just a couple of years. And the question has been and will continue to be, what next? Like, what do you do afterwards? Do you go off to college and spend a ton of money and, have to have student debt for the rest of your life so that you can get a degree that's no longer really needed anywhere? Do you start your own business? Do you do things online? Do you go to a trade school? And it's a very hard and interesting conversation that a lot of parents are having to have with their kids right now, and that a lot of adults are having to have with themselves. Like, is it worth finishing out whatever college you're in? Is it better to go into a trade school? Is it better to try to start your own social media something, your online something? Like, what is the right answer for the future of making money, right? So the Ford CEO posted this thing, said, I don't know why I need to go to college, is what his son said to him, and said that his son was working as a mechanic over the summer. And he's like, this is what I like to do. Do I really need to go to college to get some degree in order to, make money in the future? And when you have the Ford CEO, his name's Jim Farley, when you have him having this conversation out loud with people, it really does let you know kind of how times have changed. It used to be back in the day that you went to school and then you went into some sort of trade. You were an electrician, you were a plumber, you were a paver, you were building houses, you were a framer, you were a painter, all these whatever. And then it became well, if you want to make good money, you got to go to college. But think about it. Back in the day, and I don't even know when in the day is, when it stopped being back in the day, college was affordable. You could go to a college, get a degree, and use that degree to make a good living. That's not the way things things are anymore. Now it is you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to this college and hope that you can get a job outside of a Taco Bell when you're done and try to make some of that money back. The cost of a higher education has become so ridiculous at most places that a lot of people are foregoing it. And then in the last year or two, you've had so many companies come out and say, listen, we don't really care about a 4-year degree anymore. It's not really a big deal. Yeah, it proves you can sit through class, but unless you're trying to be a lawyer, unless you're trying to be a doctor or something that legitimately requires that 4-year degree, getting your associates in something, getting your whatever in something else, these days doesn't really matter. So this is what Farley said. He said he gathered a host of experts this week to discuss what he calls the essential economy, basically the blue collar backbone that he sees mired in crisis. And then it had AT&T CEO John Stankey, the FedEx CEO Raj Subramanian. They talked about how AI is impacting manufacturing and how they're hustling to stay ahead of the curve. Right? Even in Michigan, you have the governor there, Gretchen Whitmer. She issued a sober warning about how China could dominate if we're not careful with the auto industry, right? You guys know exactly how this works. And even JP Morgan CEO, Jamie Dimon, we've talked about him numerous times. He appeared via video to urge America not to become a nation of compliance and box checking. There's a lot going on when it comes to how you earn your money, how you spend your money, what you spend your money on, how you're being paid for the things that you do. Everything has changed over the last few years, and it will continue to change over the next however many years, obviously. And the irony of that, y'all, stick with me here because this is interesting to me. Y'all know we talk about literally everything over here. So I'm on Yahoo, don't hate me for it. They have a lot of articles, very, biased sometimes in certain ways, but they have a lot of articles. And I saw this one randomly that said tokenization of real world assets is an unstoppable freight train coming to major markets. This is from the Robinhood CEO. Now, obviously the words freight train caught my attention more than anything because East Palestine, Ohio, Norfolk Southern, if you know, you know. So I hear the word train or I read the word train and I'm automatically looking at it to see what's going on, right? And this one just kind of caught me off guard. But then I was like, oh, wait, what is this? So there's this, the Robinhood CEO, his name is Vlad Tenev or whatever. You guys know Robinhood is that online trading app, like stock app. I have it, but I don't use it. I just know I have some stocks through it and I just let it do its thing. Cause again, I'm still trying to understand all the digital, everything that's going on, right? But according to him, he says the tokenization will become the default way to get exposure to US stocks outside the US. And you're probably asking yourself, Michelle, what the hell does this matter? It matters because this is the future. We can want everything to stay the way it was, but it's not going to. And it's one of those things, either, what's the phrase? Either get on the train or get left behind, something like that. I don't know exactly how it goes. Right now, y'all, gold is trading at an all-time high, which far surpasses many of the most bullish forecasts for 2025 that were issued by any of the major Wall Street banks. Now, gold and silver are having a breakout year, and it's happening because tariffs and wars have changed the way that the dollars are used around the globe. We are entering a very volatile era where China, Russia, and their axis are finding ways to transact without the dollar. And the West is dealing with massive sovereign debt crisis. Now, gold and silver's breakout 2025, leading all other major asset classes, has brought them to the forefront, and the demand from central banks is at a record high as well. Now, into this boom in precious metals and in record central bank demand, I believe I've just come across basically like a Netflix versus Blockbuster moment. Netflix being the very first streamer out there, right? This could be one of the most monumental and significant developments in gold and commodities we've ever seen. Everybody understands how Blockbuster's business model became totally obsolete and outdated when Netflix offered the exact same content, but through streaming. The mechanism of delivery dramatically improved, the product was upgraded, the experience of the end consumer was so positive, basically a night and day difference, that Blockbuster went out of business and Netflix went from launching its first stream to becoming one of the largest companies on earth, from just $1 per share in 2022 to $1,200 a share today. Now, ETFs made gold trading accessible to a much larger audience in the 2000s in much the same way that Blockbuster branches made movies accessible to cinema goers. But the next revolution that could make the ETFs of today obsolete or greatly challenged by better new competitors might be here. So gold is experiencing a bull market that has shocked many, and the available ETFs in the market right now turn away so many who don't trust the audits, who don't believe that they're fully backed by the underlying metals, or who live in dozens of countries where the ETFs are not available to trade. Now, these are massive problems that the ETF providers know are their weaknesses. The largest gold ETF manages more than $120 billion and growing. Yet, what I'm about to show you might be the biggest disruptor to their business model since inception. As I said, the biggest weaknesses they face are doubts about not being fully backed, doubts about their auditing and the underlying metal vaults, not being accessible to hundreds of millions of investors that reside in developing markets, and they charge a fee for managing. So billionaire mining tycoon Frank Guestra, along with who I consider to be a mining legend, Sean Roosen, y'all may have heard of, are well aware of the opportunity in disrupting the current ETF providers with a fully backed, vaulted, audited, verified yield-bearing financial product, which could be accessible the world over. And Frank Guestra just invested heavily to the tune of owning 17 million shares of a brand new, just listed NASDAQ company called StreamX, ticker symbol STEX, STX, the sponsor of today's video, aiming to revolutionize the industry of owning precious metals and commodities in general by commercializing fully backed, vaulted, audited, and verified ownership of gold and other leading commodities. Again, for those of you who are interested, the ticker symbol is STEX, STX, and it's on the NASDAQ. Like I said before, this is kind of a Netflix versus Blockbuster moment in my view, and it seems that billionaires like Frank, who owns roughly $90 million worth of STEX right now, do agree. StreamX wants to do to commodities ETFs what Netflix did to movies and TV shows, what Apple did to music and phones. They want to dramatically improve the user experience and make it simpler, easier, and better, and offer it globally. So right now, StreamX is just lining up the last details before launching its first product, the fully backed yield-bearing gold one. Now, on top of the major position that Frank Guestra, one of the premier gold entrepreneurs ever, owns, the two co-founders each own 21 million shares worth just north of $100 million. So significant skin in the game for the people leading this revolution. Now, for years, I've been hearing from people that ETFs are not ideal for them, hard or impossible to trust because of the backing or the auditing of them, and sometimes because of the management fees and premiums. Now, StreamX is launching a potential game changer. And if I compare it metaphorically to Netflix, this is like before they launched their first ever streaming, because StreamX is just about to launch their first product to the global market. Now, the company has secured up to $1.1 billion in funding through a mix of equity, convertible debentures, and a line of credit led by Cantor Fitzgerald, the company that was run by Howard Lutnick, you guys know Howard, Secretary of Commerce, and now managed by his sons. This funding will allow the company to draw upon and should purchase physical gold to back their products, as well as to likely add to their own balance sheet. In other words, StreamX, again, ticker STX on the NASDAQ, would very likely be one of the first publicly traded companies to own gold on their books. A very welcome change. Now, their vision is to launch several gold products and then to expand to silver and others. Commodities are ripe for a fintech revolution compared with today's ETFs. Now, for years, I've heard, even from Warren Buffett, that owning gold does not earn a yield, and now StreamX has pioneered a product that will produce yield, so the owner will essentially get paid to own gold. The proprietary platform StreamX developed attracted as their chief investment officer, Mr. Mitchell Williams, who not only ran WAFRA, the Kuwaiti Sovereign Wealth Fund, but was also one of the sole portfolio managers for Oppenheimer's flagship value fund. The yield-bearing token is a partnership with Monetary Metals, one of the behemoths in the gold leasing industry. The platform itself was developed by the same software experts that built cybersecurity infrastructure for Capital One Bank, Bank of America, and JP Morgan's credit card processing infrastructure business, one of the largest fintech platforms in the world, of course. The token will be on the Solana and Coinbase's Base blockchain, and as you guys well know, tokenization of a real-world asset is the biggest and most important financial disruption of our times. From NASDAQ to Robinhood and all the other major financial companies, most are scrambling to upgrade their offerings to the chain because it potentially opens 24/7 trading on a global scale and democratizes the access of every investor in the world to many more products. Just to say it one more time, y'all, this is definitely a Netflix versus Blockbuster moment, or a Nokia versus iPhone moment, if you will, in my opinion. And I wanted to make you fully aware of this at the ground floor level because we all know the drawbacks of the current ETFs. We all know the gold's bull market has sent its price to its highest ever, and that Frank Guestra has positioned in StreamX to the tune of $90 million before they launched their first product, which is coming in short order, and that Cantor Fitzgerald was instrumental in securing up to $1.1 billion in financing for StreamX to draw upon and begin purchasing physical gold bars. StreamX seeks to be a fintech tokenization giant, basically. This is inception, and a major revolution could be underway. Do your research on StreamX, which looks to disrupt the current giants in commodities ETFs with fully backed, audited, and verified ownership, redeemable and secured. But that's one of those things where I need to understand everything that's happening in the stock market. I need to understand Bitcoin. I need to understand crypto. I need to understand digital assets. I need to understand EFTs, and I need to understand all of it because that is the future. Remember a couple years ago during the peak of COVID, the whole talk was CBDC, central bank digital currency, and how the dollar was going to go away and things like that. And I don't think that's the case. Personally, I don't think the dollar is ever going to go away. I don't think physical paper money is ever going to go away. Yeah, they might stop making pennies, but I don't think we're ever going to lose the physical dollar. Now, during the keynote discussion with the Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez DeRimmer and Micro, you guys know Micro, Dirty Jobs. I used to love watching his show on, I think it was TLC back in the day. Either way, I used to love watching his show, but now he has the Micro Works Foundation, and he's a very big believer in trade schools and getting your hands dirty and things like that, right? He talked about how, the families are being impacted. And Farley said that his son worked as a mechanic this summer. He said that this is what his son said that stunned them. He said, "Dad, I really like this work. I don't know why I need to go to college." And then Farley, obviously, he and his wife are looking at each other and they're like, should we be debating this? Do we try to push our kid to go to school? Do we tell him he doesn't have to go to school? But it should be a debate because obviously it's going to be different for every single person. But with our daughter, 16, she's going to be graduating soon. And it's like, okay, well, you either have to have some sort of trade school training or whatever, or something that you can do hands-on that AI can't come in and take from you, that robots can't come in and take from you, or you have to do stuff online because that is the wave of the future. Everything going online, whether it is social media stuff, whether it is knowing how to program things, whether it's being the one who works on the AI this or the robot that, whether it's, working in the money industry, tokenizations of things and Bitcoins and stablecoin and crypto and all this other stuff that still sometimes goes over my head. You're going to have to figure it out, right? Now, Micro, obviously, longtime advocate of trade schools and things like that. He says the imbalance, the math that's catching up to us is the baby boomer generation ages and birth rates fall. He said his degree cost him $12,200 in 1984, whereas today it costs close to $97,000 for the same degree from the same place, which is, again, absolutely ridiculous. He said nothing in the history of Western civilization has gotten more expensive more quickly. Not energy, not food, not real estate, not even healthcare. Nothing has been inflated more than the cost of a 4-year degree, which is why these scholarships are so very important to a lot of people. But even then, you're still having to pay out the frickin' wazoo for your books, for anything extra, for your housing, all this other stuff. Everything is so expensive. And it says here, the Associated Press reported that yes, many colleges were charging roughly $95,000 per year. This is per year as of April 2024. So imagine what it is right now. But the financial aid system lowers that in practice, depending. But then if you end up getting a loan, then you're paying interest on it. And a lot of people, we've talked about this before, a lot of people are paying more for their loan interest than they paid for their loan. So this $100,000 loan is costing them $150,000 in the long run. And it's something that's very hard for people to get out of. So when we're looking at stuff like what's going on with Harvard, what's going on with just a lot of the college campuses right now, it's important to note that what is best for your kid or you and your family or yourself is going to be different for everyone, obviously. But there's going to be a massive push, I think, for more hands-on work, less college degrees, and a huge, massive push for more tech. People who can do things in the tech industry, the money industry online, things like that. So when we're talking to our daughter about stuff, it's like, listen, you have to do what's best for you, but you also have to understand the ramifications of whatever you decide to do, whether it's you're going to be paying off student loans forever if you can't get a job in whatever field you pick that's going to pay enough to cover your life and the student loans, or you have to be willing to think outside the box and maybe do a job that a lot of people are overlooking. We have such a shortage of electricians and framers and farmers and all these other things that I think could be very lucrative for a lot of people. Because at the end of the day, you're not paying that student loan back for colleges, right? Like, I think it's a very big deal. I didn't go to college. I did not go. After high school, I did maybe 6 months of college and I was like, I hate it. It's not for me. I didn't want it, but I was able to do a corporate job that required a 4-year degree without having a degree because I had the skills and the knowledge and the time in the job and the push to make it happen, right? Not everybody can do that and not everybody's like that. But anyway, I've digressed so far, which is great. We went to this place called World Market in Panama City on Friday, I believe it was. My daughter and her friend and my husband and I, we all went out. We went and played Top Golf. They wanted to play golf. We went to World Market and my daughter wanted to buy some things that were there. So she gets up to the register and she asked the lady, do you take cash? And the lady was like, yes. But it's a weird question that we still ask, right? That do you take money? Whereas before it was like, do y'all take credit cards? Like, because everybody took cash, nobody took credit cards. Now so many places take credit cards, very few. There's still a lot, but very few that now will accept cash. Like there's so many that have gone away from cash, but cash is still a thing. Cash is still king. But the digital everything is ramping up. And whether it is the stock market, whether it's the ETFs, EFTs, look, this is my brain. It's important that we learn. So look, I was reading this thing here and it says that Robinhood began offering more than 200 tokenized US stocks to customers in the European Union in June, giving them a new way to gain exposure to the underlying assets. Listen. The tokenization, which is still a weird word to me, tokenization, because it makes me think of J.R. Tolkien, the author. I don't know why, but that's what my brain does. The tokenization of real world assets from stocks to real estate will spread to financial markets around the world. And it says tokenization is like a freight train. It can't be stopped. And eventually it's going to eat the entire financial system, which I'm like, wait, is that good or is that bad? Right? Like I'm trying to understand. And this is, that's what the Vlad guy from Robinhood is telling a panel at a crypto conference that was in Singapore on Wednesday, excuse me for the hiccup. He says, I think most major markets will have some framework in the next 5 years. And then he says, a tokenized asset is a digital representation. Listen, this is the important part. A tokenized asset is a digital representation of a real world asset like stocks, bonds, or commodities that can be recorded and traded on a blockchain or distributed ledger. This is where I'm trying to understand everything because again, the future is going to be in this, right? So understanding it is important. It says in June, Robinhood began offering more than 200 tokenized US stocks to customers in the European Union, the EU, giving them a new way to gain exposure to the underlying assets. And it says the move sent its stocks surging to a then record high. So, I mean, people are making serious bank, right? It says, I think it will become the default way to get exposure to US stocks outside of the US, which means that those stocks will be worth more. You'll make more money from them because you have a bigger reach of them, which helps the people in the US, the companies in the US that have those stocks, right? Like that's what I hear from this. And it says he expects the practice to gain traction once there is greater licensing and regulatory clarity in more jurisdictions. And then it says that, the crypto industry has long predicted that a mass tokenization of assets on the blockchain was coming, promising greater market efficiency. And then it was saying here that, okay, digital stablecoins, digital currencies designed not to fluctuate wildly and pegged to a commodity or a fiat currency like the US dollar. That's an early example of a tokenized real world asset. Listen, what they're saying is that this is going to make it easier for people to be able to get into like stocks and digital everything so that they can make more money. And I want to figure out how to do this kind of stuff. It sounds nerdy. Listen, that's why I haven't really paid attention to crypto and Bitcoin and stuff like that. Because to me, it sounds nerdy and that may sound stupid or whatever else. Or maybe it's because it feels high tech, high end. So I don't fully understand. I'm a visual hands-on learner. So reading the articles is good, but seeing how these things work is even better for me. But either way, this is one of those things where, okay, well, I've already got stocks. Like we bought stock in Tesla when it, dropped down thanks to the left, just, setting everything Tesla on fire, literally throwing poo upon it and vandalizing it. Tesla stocks dropped like crazy. So we bought some and now they're going back up. So that's profit, right? But then they're saying here that this, tokenization of digital assets like your houses and your whatever else, that it makes it so that the transactions go like that, which made me think of, y'all know how my brain works here, made me think of paper checks that we used to get back in the day for work you did versus direct deposit, it goes like that. When your money can move like that, that is probably a really good thing for a lot of people. I don't know how many of y'all have 401ks where you have money invested in stock market. How many of you are into Bitcoin? How many of you are into crypto? I know a lot of you are into gold and silver and things like that. All of this works hand in hand. Like, we went out a couple years ago, you guys may remember, because if you've been here for a while, you know, we went out and bought some gold coins, a Canadian, I don't remember what it's called because I'm really bad at this part, but Canadian maple leaf, whatever. It was a Canadian gold coin, had a maple leaf on it or something, because it's good to have like gold and like tangible assets and things like that. Anyway, I think this whole entire thing is absolutely, I don't know the right word, interesting, fascinating, terrifying, all of it at the same time. But you have to realize that as much as we want things to stay the same, they are not going to. So you have to get on board with the freight train, I guess is the right word to use there. So I'm going to figure out how to do all this kind of stuff because I think it's interesting. And I want to be able to have something that I can leave behind for my daughter, right? That won't burn to the ground like a physical asset, like a house. I want her to have something that is there and consistently gaining money is easy to get to. And I think this is the best way to do it. Stuff like this. So I know the most random conversation, literally probably the most random conversation we've ever had, but thank you for letting me have this one with you. And I'm curious how many of you are in this space. Like, how many of you understand crypto and Bitcoin and trading like that? Like, because I really do want to learn more. And if y'all know of any, I guess, channels or places you can look to find better information on stuff like that, let me know, because I want to learn, like I said. But for now, look at this. Look, broski is like, can I please come inside? So I'm gonna let the dog in because I already let him out. Get it? Who let the dogs out? Again, and then we've got to go do mom, wife stuff. Wash dishes, wash clothes, clean house, whatnot. Do a little more trying to understand all the crypto and assets and tokenization of things. I'm kind of curious, for those of you who went to college, how much was it when you went? If you have kids that are going to college, how much are you having to pay for them? Because I've seen so many people who say, well, we sold our house and downsized so we could help our child pay for college. Or we sold this, we pulled out money from our 401k. We did, got rid of an asset that we had so we could help our kids pay for college because, we wanted them to have a good footing in life. And I think that's very commendable. But how much is this whole college thing hurting families more than it's helping them? It's just an interesting conversation to have. Anyway, y'all, because like I said, that's the future. Either way, y'all, I love you immensely. See you later. Goodbye. Thanks for letting me have a random conversation with you. I appreciate it. I love y'all. Goodbye.